Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's cohort on gaining and reflecting on experiences and journaling. We're very excited to share the information that we have collected for you all. And yeah, go ahead and go to the next slide.
So just to reintroduce ourselves, I'm Ian. I'm the peer advisor for pre-medical, pre-dental, and pre-veterinary students, as well as some health studies and public health.
And I'm Sydney. I am also the freshman peer advisor for pre-PA, PT, OT, and health studies and health science undeclared. And we also have a new peer advisor, Phoebe, who's not with us at this time, but she is awesome and will also be soon working with freshmen.
So experience, we've all heard the word, but what exactly does experience mean? It can come from really any part of your life, both professional, within your academics, or in your personal life. And it's important to kind of reflect on these experiences as, they make you who you are. So if you could just take a second and reflect on maybe an experience you've had this week, or maybe some large experience that has really, shaped your character in some way.
Okay, I think I have mine. So yesterday I was supposed to do our laundry and get everything ready for my husband's travel. And I opted, and I was also supposed to do some homework. And my neighbor reached out and was like, hey, I really need some help doing this really cool crafty thing. And I totally was like, okay, I'm going to go do that. So I totally forgot laundry. I totally forgot all the things I was supposed to do and totally focused on this craft thing, which I loved, and it turned out really cool and it was amazing. The experience itself what ended up happening was I didn't get my assignment done. So I didn't turn it in until this morning. That's not good. And my husband was a little antsy with me because his laundry had to come first. And so I had to I was drying stuff at 11 o'clock at night. So the experience itself actually taught me I need to be a little bit better about managing my time and making good choices in regards to my priorities. So that would be mine.
Great. So I think it's important that we kind of ground ourselves here before we actually jump into the experience portion. So we're all students here at Boise State right now, and we all have our own hopes and dreams, whether that is becoming a veterinarian, a dietitian or nutritionist, a speech language pathologist, a physician, or a dentist. We're all going to have our own experiences that we bring to the table. Even if we all come from the same starting point, we all want to do different things. So just to give a little bit of background here is some common places that we'll see some of our students applying for any of their respective programs. And one of the main things that we see reoccurring in each of these things that schools look for in their students and their applicants is life experiences. You can see, of course, you have to have your academic records, your standardized test scores, but regardless of what specifically your schools are requiring, it looks like they all require an experience portion. So again, that can be with your life experiences, your academic and your professional experiences. Really what these schools are looking for is to show that you are your own unique person and you are bringing your own unique perspectives and experiences to the table. So I know what you're probably thinking. Well, I'm not shadowing a doctor right now. I'm not working in a hospital. I'm not a CNA. But again, your experiences can really come from any part of your life. And even with a job that you may not view as being, particularly helpful in your way to becoming a physician or a dentist, still brings unique and important skills to the table. So an example we have here is a barista. So working day to day in a coffee shop, you're going to be communicating with your customers, and that can be translated to communicating with patients and their families. Multitasking, having to give the precise order and follow directions. These are all important skills that really can be applied to any aspects of our lives, especially our professional aspirations. Leadership, succeeding while under pressure. Again, these are all very important skills. So we pulled these from CASPA, which is for physician assistant students. But if you look at any of the professional organizations for your chosen pre-health pathways, you'll see very similar areas which they consider experience. So non-healthcare related employment, again, that could fall with barista, that could be working in a restaurant, really anything, again, outside that non-healthcare realm. Research, that's a pretty common one that we'll, have students ask about and want to get into. And that too brings valuable experience, whether that's in a lab or researching policy. Any sort of research brings, valuable skills to the table. Leadership experience. This again can fall into many different areas, whether that's being the president of a club on campus, if you participate on a sports team, like a rec team outside of school, or if you have a leadership role within your job. Leadership is something that, can definitely be, worked on and learned. So, bringing leadership to the table from your own experiences is important, and schools look for that. And extracurricular activities, you hear more than just your schooling and your job. You need to, follow your hobbies and things you love doing. And again, that shows that you're an individual. Teaching, that one's, a little harder, but, we have experiences on campus like learning assistants and teaching assistants, as well as, some teaching components with what Cindy and I do in our peer advising job. So, that is one you could achieve as well. And here are some of the more traditional ones we'll see with students wanting to get into a healthcare profession, volunteering and shadowing. We see students commonly volunteering at, the food pantry on campus, as well as outside organizations like Habitat for Humanity, or, just a weekly blood drive. Shadowing, very important. We'll touch on that, in a future presentation, but again, you want to know that what you're going into is, the right thing for you. And of course, the patient care and healthcare experiences. With most of you guys watching being freshmen, and we're in the midst of a pandemic, this can be hard to achieve. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about gaining patient care and healthcare experience this early. It's definitely something you should look into, maybe identify some roles that may be interesting to you. But I'd recommend starting to look at these areas probably towards the beginning of your sophomore year, just to find a role you may be interested in. A lot of them like senior and junior standing students.
Okay, so we have mentioned that there are so many different ways to gain experiences, as seen by those two CASPA slides. Experience is something that is everywhere, and it's just up to us to go out and seek that experience. But what can we do once we have obtained it? So we've gone out, we've done some experiences, we've, had some new skills under our belt and done all of these things, but what do we do after that? Or how can we translate those experiences into something that we will remember or possibly use and be of value to us as we apply to professional schools? So with that, we are going to talk about journaling. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. Have you ever journaled before? Or have you ever, heard of a reflection journal? Erin?
I live by them personally. I think it's a helpful way for me to dump my head. I'm always thinking like 3 steps ahead of myself, and so like before I go to bed, I get really like antsy and anxiety, and I can't fall asleep because I've got so many things I want to do, or so many things I want to say, or I want to remember something. And so I do a lot of just like kind of making lists of things. And then that sometimes spurs me to like think about like, well, what engaged me and what didn't. So I do a lot of journaling, but that's just because I'm a crazy person.
Awesome. So reflection journals, as we can see on the slide, they are records of the experiences that you've had. And what's really valuable about these is that not only are you collecting all of your experiences into one centralized place, but you're also kind of giving yourself an avenue to be able to reflect on those experiences. So once they've all come together, you can lay them out and kind of see everything in front of you. This is an opportunity for you to learn from your experiences and reflect on them, which is really important for somebody who is going to be applying to a professional school. And we'll touch on that a bit later. But just to summarize, reflection journals are not, they are not summaries. So it's not necessarily a personal diary where you write down every single thing that you did that day, or, you know, every single thing that you learned. It's more of thinking of the bigger things that you had, or something that kind of stood out to you or spoke to you as, oh, this could actually translate into something valuable for an interview, or for writing down in a future essay. So they're in no way just jotting down everything that's in your brain, at least for a reflective journal. It is a lot more of just getting those big ideas into one central place. So how do you create a reflection journal? Some people are interested in doing these digitally. Some people love to have the pen and paper and the whole experience, decorate a whole journal. But to create one, there's kind of this blueprint that we'll touch on later, or that you could practice with. And this blueprint consists of 5 key points. First one is making sure to write and record everything. Once you've written everything down, that is the time to reflect and think about. You can read kind of those subheaders about your own thoughts or reactions to these things, but a key thing to think about is, what did you learn from this experience? Did you learn, you know, I went out and as a CNA, I went out and I met with this patient and I learned about something about myself. I learned that I'm, you know, really interested in this aspect, and I learned that I'm not interested in this aspect of medicine. So a lot can be learned from the journals that you kind of keep log of. From there, after you've reflected, you can now analyze and kind of dig a little bit deeper. So analyzing is important because now you can think, okay, I learned this, but how can I connect this to, you know, go a little bit deeper? How can I connect this to the classes that I'm in right now? Or how can I connect this to the professional school that I'm interested in? So again, we're kind of peeling back the layers. First, we're writing everything down, then we're just kind of taking a look at it, thinking about it, then we're actually analyzing it and gaining insight. From there, you can kind of, you know, tie everything in a nice bow and conclude that from these experiences, this is what I conclude. So from the experience I had with this patient, I conclude that I'm really interested in going into, you know, being a PA, or being specifically in pediatrics. And, you know, that's something that you can draw conclusions to. Personal action plan is cool because you can actually set yourself up for something that you're going to do in the future because of these experiences. So because of this experience I had with a patient, I'm going to have a personal action plan of, you know, meeting with my advisor and talking about the pathway to get there. Or I'm going to volunteer in some kind of field of pediatrics to really confirm that that's what I'm interested in. So a personal action plan is great and kind of takes those experiences and lets you continue on with them. So I think one of the biggest and most valuable aspects of reflective journaling is that you can see this upward growth and this pattern in the progress that you've made from your journals. So starting to journal as a freshman and continuing it through your entire undergrad is an extremely valuable thing, because you can see from your first journals to your last journals, look how far you've come. So I can think in my own experience when I did virtual shadowing is that I kept a journal from the very first doctor and PA that I virtually shadowed to the last. And you can see that the things I picked up on are completely different. The first couple journals, it was, oh, this doctor went to this school and here's his little tidbit of advice. To my last ones were, oh, this doctor is talking about creating your own personal philosophy when it comes to being a practitioner. And these are, just completely different things that I picked up on just because I had this practice and this experience. And because I was reflecting, I was realizing other things that were important for me to write down and for me to have, so that in the future, going into an interview or going into essay questions for professional schools, you have everything all together. You can look at, when a interview question says, tell me about an experience you had, boom. Before that interview, you've looked through your journal and you can think about all of these experiences you've had. And now you have a whole variety of them to choose from. So reflection in your journals is great for, as I've mentioned, I feel like I've said this a lot, but it is really great just for those future instances where you need to think back to those experiences that you've had. Perfect. So our wrap-up activity is journaling our experience from Cohort. So again, we had that blueprint of how to actually, perfect. That blueprint of how to create and write in your reflection journal. So this is something that I recommend, taking a screenshot of or taking a photo of so that you can have this. And I guarantee that the more you actually journal and the more you refer to this, the more it will become like second nature. You're not going to have to keep thinking, oh, what was step 3 again? It's going to become a natural thing that, oh, I know how to reflective journal. I don't need this blueprint anymore. So highly recommend saving this and journaling about your experience in Cohort so that you can kind of start this journey of reflective journaling for yourself.